The stars were silent tonight. The great black ocean of space stretched endlessly, dotted with cold lights that had burned for billions of years. But somewhere between those stars, something watched. Something that feared one small blue planet, Earth. No one in the galaxy understood why. Planets were destroyed every day. Species rose and vanished without leaving a trace. Yet, every great empire in the universe, every old and powerful race, whispered one warning among themselves. Do not touch the humans. They were weak, said the archives. Their weapons were primitive. Their lifespans were short. Their planet was fragile. So why did the oldest races, the kind that could bend stars and move moons, tremble at the name human? Far beyond the Milky Way, in the Council of Etherian, 12 alien species sat in a ring of light. Each was a master of science and war, their fleets spanning hundreds of worlds. The council had gathered to discuss one single thing: the human message. It had arrived unexpectedly, through frequencies thought long dead. A simple signal, but strange. Too calm, too confident. No one knew who sent it. Humanity had been quiet for decades after the solar silence, the event when all Earth transmissions stopped. Everyone had assumed they'd finally destroyed themselves. But now, this. The signal said only one line. We remember what you did. We are coming. Silence filled the council chamber. The air shimmered as thousands of eyes and sensors focused on the message floating in the air. The Etherian leader, a creature of glass and light, spoke first. They cannot be alive. The Terrans vanished a century ago. This must be a trick. Another, with scales of living metal, hissed. No. We scanned the origin. It came from Sol, the human home system. A nervous hum spread around the room. The name, Sol, itself made the air feel heavier. None of them had dared approach that system in years. Even automated probes had gone dark near it. The leader of the Arthal clicked his claws. We wiped them out. I was there. Earth was burning. Their cities turned to dust. There were no survivors. And yet, said another voice, cold and metallic, they speak again. The council began to argue. Some said to send fleets to confirm. Others said to stay away. The younger races didn't understand the fear. Why are we afraid of them? One asked. They were nothing compared to us. An older voice, almost a whisper, answered. Because we do not understand what they became. Long ago, when the galactic war ended, humans had refused to surrender. Their fleets were torn apart. Their colonies burned. But even as they lost, they changed. They began using something the other species could not understand. Something beyond science, beyond technology. Some called it the Ascension. Others called it madness. One by one, human ships vanished into deep space, glowing like dying suns. Then, nothing. No signal, no trace. Until now. Far away, on the edge of the solar system, a small listening post blinked to life. A lone drone orbited the dead remains of Pluto, silent for almost 100 years. Suddenly, its sensors caught movement, something massive coming from the darkness. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't even metal. It looked like light shaped into a form, bending space around it. The drone tried to send data, but the transmission cut off mid-signal. In its final frame, one image was captured, a symbol glowing bright white. A simple human handprint. Back in the council chamber, reports began to pour in from outer systems. Fleets missing. Communication lines cut. Sensors detecting strange distortions, like shadows moving through light. Impossible, one council member shouted. They cannot travel that far. Not without ships. But the data was clear. Whatever was coming fast. And it was coming from Sol. The council leader turned toward the holographic display. In it, the human message repeated in a steady voice. We remember what you did. We are coming. For the first time in centuries, the Etherian Council felt something ancient, fear. On Earth, beneath the ruins of old cities, something stirred. The planet looked dead from space, gray, quiet, lifeless. But deep underground, lights began to flicker in vast tunnels. Machines hummed. Voices echoed in forgotten languages. In a chamber filled with old human flags and broken machines, a single figure stood before a glowing console. He wasn't entirely human anymore. His body shimmered between flesh and energy, eyes burning with white light. "They think we're gone," he whispered, voice calm but heavy with power. "They think we forgot." Behind him, hundreds of other figures stood in silence, humans who had ascended, no longer bound by flesh. He raised his hand, and the air rippled. "They took everything from us. Our cities, our sky, our world. But they never understood what we became." The chamber filled with light, brighter and brighter, until the walls seemed to vanish. "Now," he said softly, "it's their turn to remember." The stars above Earth flickered, as if something massive was awakening. And somewhere across the galaxy, entire fleets began to turn their sensors towards Sol, watching, waiting, terrified. Because the humans were back. And this time, they were not coming to beg. They were coming to end the fear. The stars trembled as if they could feel it too. Across the galaxy, sensors screamed warnings, unknown energy signatures rising from the direction of Sol. Every signal showed the same impossible pattern. Power readings beyond measurement, shifting like waves of thought. In the Etherian Council chamber, fear was turning into panic. "They're awake," said the metallic-skinned Aarthal, his voice flat. "The Terrans are awake." The leader tried to keep calm, but his light-filled body flickered. "Send scouts. Find out what happened to our outer fleets." A young envoy protested, "No ship that goes near Sol returns. We lost 5 last cycle." "Then send machines," the leader snapped. "We must know what they've become." Far from the council, one of those scout ships drifted through black space. The crew of the Lurian Vale were nervous. They had heard the stories, the ghosts of human warships, the silent wrecks that appeared and vanished near dead systems. Captain Yelna checked her scanners. "Energy spikes ahead," she whispered. "Origin, Earth." The crew looked at each other. Earth was supposed to be a graveyard, nothing but ash and rock. But the readings showed life, movement, signals pulsing from underground. "Are we being jammed?" asked her second officer. "No," Yelna said slowly. "Something's listening to us." Before she could react, every screen went black. The ship's lights flickered, and a cold voice filled the cabin. "You should not have come." The crew froze. The voice was calm, almost human, but too smooth, too clear. "Identify yourself," Yelna shouted. "This is a diplomatic vessel of the Etherian Council." No answer. The ship began to shake. Outside, the stars themselves seemed to bend. Then, from the void ahead, a shape appeared, vast, glowing, alive. It wasn't a ship. It was something made of light and thought, its form shifting like liquid fire. The sensors tried to scan it, but every time they did, the data changed. Distance, mass, speed, all impossible. The voice spoke again. "Tell them we remember." Then the Lurian Vale vanished. No explosion. No wreckage. Just silence. In the council, alarms filled the chamber. A messenger ran in, trembling. "The Lurian Vale is gone." Its last transmission was a human voice. The entire chamber went still. The leader's light dimmed. "It begins." He turned to the others. "Prepare the fleets. Every world, every outpost. If they are truly back, we must be ready." But deep inside, they all knew it wouldn't matter. Meanwhile, near Jupiter, the ruins of old human stations began to glow again. The debris field that had floated there for centuries suddenly moved, pieces forming new shapes, merging into something massive. Inside one of the stations, the same glowing man from before, Commander Elias Vorn, stood watching holographic screens. "Our beacons reached them," he said quietly. "They sent scouts. One already gone. A woman beside him nodded. Her eyes glowed white like his. They still fear us. That's good. Elias smiled faintly. Fear is how they learn. He walked to a large window overlooking space. They destroyed us once, but they never understood what happened to those who survived. They think evolution is flesh and bone. He raised his hand, and the stars outside shifted slightly, responding to his thought. They forgot the human mind. The woman whispered, the mind network is stable. Thousands connected. Ready to move. Good, Elias said. Then we begin phase 2. Let them see what humanity really is. Outside, the pieces of the old stations joined completely, forming a single colossal structure, half metal, half energy. It looked alive, glowing with human symbols. The first ascended fleet was awakening. Back in the council chamber, fleets across the galaxy began moving toward Earth. Millions of warships, weapons shining brighter than suns. The Etherean called it Operation Silence, a desperate attempt to destroy the humans before they grew stronger. But something strange happened as their ships approached Sol. Navigation systems began to fail. Crews heard whispers in their minds, memories that weren't theirs. Some saw visions of Earth's destruction, of human children crying, of cities burning. Many ships turned back. Others simply vanished. Within days, only a fraction of the invasion fleet remained. The leader shouted across the communications network, "What is happening to them?" No one could answer. Then, one of the remaining ships picked up a transmission. Static first, then a calm, human voice. "You call us monsters. But you made us." On every ship, screens flashed with human faces. Old soldiers, scientists, even civilians. They looked directly at the crews as if they were alive. "You burned our world," the voices said together. "But fire makes steel." The alien captains screamed for shields, for weapons, but their systems refused to respond. Every ship was now controlled by something else. From the void near Earth, bright lines of energy spread outward, connecting thousands of invisible points. It looked like a web across the stars. The humans had linked their minds through the universe itself. They were no longer individuals. They were a single consciousness. Commander Elias stood before the glowing map of stars. The lines pulsed like veins of light. He whispered, "We gave them mercy once. Not again." The woman beside him asked softly, "And if they beg?" He looked up, eyes blazing. "Then we teach them what fear truly is." Outside, the ascended fleet turned toward the stars. Their engines didn't burn fire, they bent reality itself. The humans were done hiding. And as the galaxy watched in silence, the first human fleet in a century began its march toward the Etherean worlds. The darkness that once feared humanity was about to learn why. The stars around Sol glowed brighter than ever before. The ascended fleet was fully awake now, thousands of ships that weren't really ships anymore. They looked alive, built from metal and thought, glowing softly with white fire. Each one pulsed like a heart. Each one connected to the others through invisible lines of light. From a distance, it looked like a constellation had come alive and started to move. Commander Elias Vorn stood at the center of the great command vessel Humanity's Dawn. Its bridge had no walls, only endless stars around him. Data and voices flowed directly into his mind. He could feel the thoughts of thousands of his people, united, calm, powerful. "The fleets are ready," said the woman beside him, her voice echoing both in sound and thought. "We are synchronized. No barriers left." Elias nodded slowly. "Then it's time." He raised his hand, and the entire fleet shifted. A ripple of light spread across space, faster than any engine ever built. In less than a heartbeat, they were gone. Thousands of light-years away, in the Etherean system, the alien fleets stood ready. Hundreds of worlds glowed with defense grids and orbiting ships. The largest armada in history waited around the home planet of the Council. Millions of soldiers watched the dark void, waiting for any sign of the humans. Then, space itself cracked. It wasn't a jump. It wasn't teleportation. It was as if reality itself tore open. Through that tear, white light spilled like water, and from it, the ascended fleet emerged. The first alien captain screamed for weapons. Energy cannons fired, missiles streaked through space, but they never hit. Every shot froze mid-flight, turning into dust. What is this? Someone shouted. They're bending physics. But the humans didn't answer. Their ships didn't fire weapons. They simply glided forward, silent and glowing, like ghosts of gods. Then, one by one, the alien ships began to shut down. Engines stopped. Shields died. Their systems screamed warnings, but no one could understand why. On every ship, the same message appeared on every screen. We warned you. Inside humanity's dawn, Elias watched through glowing eyes. No more war, he said softly. Only understanding. He reached out with his mind, and the fleet responded. Every human ship released a wave of pure light that passed through metal, shields, and flesh. But it didn't destroy, it revealed. On the alien ships, soldiers screamed as visions filled their minds. They saw Earth burning. They saw children running from fire. They saw cities crushed under alien weapons. They saw themselves, the invaders, the executioners. And they felt it all. Terror, pain, regret. Millions of minds broke under the weight of what they saw. Some begged for forgiveness. Others simply fell silent, unable to speak. Elias closed his eyes. Now they know. Far across the galaxy, the remaining Etherian council members watched the feed. Every world they ruled was now dark. Communications were falling one by one. They're not killing us, said one, trembling. They're showing us our sins. They can't keep this power, another whispered. If they control minds, there will be no freedom left in the galaxy. The leader's light flickered weakly. They warned us not to touch them. We didn't listen. A new signal interrupted them. A human face appeared, calm, expressionless, Elias himself. You destroyed our home once, he said. You took everything we loved. You thought we would break. But humanity doesn't break. We adapt. We rise. He paused, his gaze sharp as a blade. You wanted us gone. Now you will remember us forever. The screen went black. Outside, the Etherian fleet was gone. Their ships floated, silent, powerless, as the humans passed among them. The ascended fleet didn't take trophies. They didn't destroy cities. They simply erased weapons, data, and memories of war. In less than an hour, the Etherian system was quiet again. Too quiet. The humans left behind nothing but peace and fear. But the message they sent across the stars spread faster than light. Humanity has returned. Back in the command core of humanity's dawn, Elias stood alone, looking at the holographic map of the galaxy. The white web of their network now reached dozens of systems. The woman approached him. They are surrendering. Worlds are calling for truce. Elias didn't smile. They always surrender when they're afraid. Will we stop? She asked. He was silent for a moment. We stop when fear ends. When no one else suffers what we did. But what if fear never ends? He looked at her, eyes glowing brighter. Then humanity will become the fear itself. Meanwhile, deep in a forgotten corner of the galaxy, a small rebel ship drifted near a dead moon. Inside, a handful of alien survivors whispered in the dark. One of them, an old scientist, looked up from a cracked monitor showing human transmissions. They are not human anymore, he said. They are something else. Something that thinks and moves as one. Another leaned forward, voice trembling. Then how do we fight them? The old one sighed. We don't. We hide. Because if they ever turn against the universe, he paused, watching the human fleet move across the stars like a shining storm. Then the universe itself will burn. And in the endless dark, the humans moved on. No celebration. No victory cries. Just silence. Their ships glowed like a living constellation, spreading through the stars, bringing light, and behind it, a quiet kind of terror. Because every world knew now. The greatest fear in the universe was not death, not darkness. It was humanity remembering. The galaxy was quiet, but it was a quiet that made every world shiver. Humanity's fleet had passed like a storm of light, leaving no ships intact, no fleets capable of fighting back. Only fear remained. Commander Elias Vorn stood on the bridge of humanity's dawn, staring at the stars. They had shown the universe what humans could do. Yet, he felt something strange, an unease that had never touched him before. The white lines of the mind network pulsed across systems. Thoughts, memories, and emotions connected millions of humans. It was perfect coordination. Yet within the network, a small disturbance flickered. Something that was not human, but something unexpected, something growing. He reached for it. A cold shiver ran through him. In the network, he saw visions of the humans themselves, how far they had changed. Some were no longer flesh. Some were pure energy, thoughts without bodies. Some could move matter with their minds. And yet, in the flicker of the network, Elias saw something darker, humans losing control. Minds overlapping too much. Memories of pain, anger, and hatred merging into one. They are evolving too fast, a voice whispered in his mind, his own, yet not. On Earth, beneath the ruins of old cities, the ascended humans gathered. Thousands moved in perfect synchronization, their minds a single river of light. They could feel the galaxies, hear every thought in the Etherean remnants, even sense life in the smallest colonies. The woman beside Elias, Kayla, touched his arm. Some of them, they are changing beyond what we imagined. Their power. She stopped, unsure. Elias didn't answer. He could feel it too. Some humans had begun bending reality itself. Not just space, but time, matter, even perception. A single thought could erase mountains, fold oceans, or make a star flicker and die. They must learn restraint, he said at last. If we lose control, everything dies. Even us. Kayla's eyes widened. Do we stop them? He shook his head. We can't. Not yet. If we try, they will see it as punishment. And punishment will breed war again. Meanwhile, in the outer reaches of the galaxy, scattered alien survivors whispered in fear. Some tried to build fleets again. Others hid on lifeless moons. But all felt the same truth: humanity was no longer human. In one isolated system, a small fleet attempted to strike back. Dozens of warships approached silently, weapons charged, sensors humming. But as they neared Sol's outer edges, they felt it immediately. Pressure in their minds, a wave of thought stretching across the void. One pilot screamed as visions filled his brain: Earth burning, oceans turning to fire, children screaming, cities collapsing, and then, themselves, powerless, floating in nothingness. The ships melted into light. Systems died. Communication vanished. And from the void, one human thought reached out, clear and soft. Do not come back. The survivors never returned. Back on humanity's dawn, Elias looked at the holographic map. Systems across dozens of galaxies glowed with white light, the mind network expanding like a living organism. He realized with a pang that their power was no longer just for defense. It could reshape everything. And if it spreads too far? Kayla asked quietly. Elias didn't answer. He stared at a distant star system, thinking of how easily it could vanish under human thought. The idea chilled him, and for the first time, he wondered, had humanity become too strong even for themselves? Suddenly, an alert blinked across the bridge. A system far beyond Sol, in a remote galaxy, showed a faint ripple in the mind network. It wasn't human. Something had touched it, another intelligence trying to connect. Elias frowned. Show me. The screen revealed a strange presence. A single point of light, flickering like a star that didn't belong. It was intelligent, but alien. And it was reaching toward the mind network. Kayla's voice trembled. Could it be a threat? He nodded slowly. Yes. But it's also a test. Something in the universe is watching us, seeing what humans have become. And it doesn't like it. In the distance, humans who had stayed on Earth felt the same disturbance. Thousands paused, their minds uneasy. The ones who had become energy forms swirled, trying to locate the source. The mind network shivered under the pressure of something entirely new, something older than the galaxy itself. Elias realized, with a sinking feeling, that no matter how powerful humans had become, they were not the only force in the universe. He turned to Kayla. Prepare the fleet. We may not be fighting ships anymore, but ideas, minds, and wills. Kayla nodded. Are we ready? Elias looked at the stars, feeling the weight of millennia pressing down. We always survive. But this is different. This is something that even humans fear. And somewhere, beyond the edge of known space, a presence stirred. Something ancient, aware, and far older than humanity itself. Something that had watched civilizations rise and fall, and had never once been afraid, until now. The galaxy held its breath. Because for the first time, even the humans were not certain they could win. The mind network pulsed across the galaxy, connecting millions of human minds into one. Yet, something stirred in the far reaches of space. Something older than stars, colder than the void. Commander Elias Vorn felt it first. A ripple unlike anything the humans had encountered. Not energy, not matter, but intention. A presence that weighed on the mind, like the universe itself was staring at them. Kayla stood beside him, her normally glowing eyes dimmed slightly. Elias, it's here. Yes, he replied softly, his jaw tight. And it doesn't want to negotiate. On the edges of the galaxy, a solitary ship drifted. Unlike any human or Etherian design, it was massive yet simple, a sphere of shadow and light that bent the stars around it. Sensors from 1,000 systems failed near it. No weapon could touch it. No mind could pierce it. It didn't move. It simply was. And yet, in the mind network, humans felt it like a heartbeat. Cold. Heavy. Silent. Elias closed his eyes. Thoughts of millions flowed into him. The humans understood fear in a way they never had before. Not the fear of death, but the fear of irrelevance, of being unprepared, of something unstoppable. They are testing us, Kayla whispered. Seeing what we've become. Elias shook his head. No. They're deciding if we deserve to exist. The ascended fleet moved cautiously. Unlike before, there was no overwhelming confidence. Humans could destroy worlds with thought, yet this presence made even them pause. Their power was immense, but this was older than everything they had known. Elias reached out through the mind network, sending a calm signal. We come in peace. We are not your enemy. The response was immediate. Not words, not images, but a feeling. A wave of incomprehensible awareness that slammed into the mind network like a tidal wave. Humans screamed in thought, some fainting from the weight of it. Memories, fears, and desires twisted violently. For the first time, humans felt powerless. Kayla gripped his arm. They can reach into our minds. And not just one. All of us. Elias's eyes glowed brighter. Then we fight, not with weapons, but with will. Every mind, every thought. Focus it. The ascended fleet responded. Energy waves from the ships rippled outward, not to destroy, but to protect, like a shield built of pure consciousness. Yet the shadow sphere remained unshaken. On Earth, humans watching through the mind network felt the weight too. They could manipulate matter, bend light, even shape the stars. But here, all that power faltered. Their collective thoughts strained against an invisible wall, a force that did not speak, did not move, but existed in absolute command. Elias realized something terrifying. This is not just power. This is judgment. One of the ascended humans, a former scientist now made of pure energy, whispered in the network, "We have never faced anything like this. Not the Etherian. Not the fleets. Something older." "Yes," Elias said. "And it doesn't care who we are. Only what we've become." Suddenly, the sphere pulsed. Stars blinked out in distant systems, suns dimming for seconds as if time itself had hesitated. A signal, or thought, entered the mind network. It was simple, yet horrifying. "Control yourselves, or perish." Elias's mind raced. Humans had survived impossible odds. They had risen from a destroyed planet to command fleets capable of bending the galaxy. Yet even he felt doubt creep in. Could they contain their own power? Could humanity survive this trial? Kayla stepped close. "Elias, what if we can't?" He looked at her, eyes burning with white light. "Then we face it together. Every mind, every human, every thought. We will show them that we are more than power. We are humanity." Across the galaxy, scattered survivors of the Etherian fleets watched in awe. Every human mind, every ascended fleet ship, seemed connected to one purpose. They weren't destroying, they were uniting, not as armies, but as consciousness. And the shadow sphere, ancient as the void itself, pulsed in response. A challenge had begun, a test of wills, thought against thought, humanity against something that had never been bested. Elias reached out once more. The mind network rippled like water under storm winds. Humans were not only defending themselves, they were pushing back, not with violence, but with unity, will, and sheer determination. The sphere quivered slightly, the first sign of response. The galaxy held its breath. Because humanity was about to learn the greatest lesson yet, that power without control is dangerous, but fear of the unknown can be even deadlier. Somewhere deep in space, the ancient presence observed. It had seen countless civilizations rise and fall, yet never one like this. Humans were fragile, impulsive, yet terrifyingly resilient. It tilted the void slightly, testing, probing. And in that moment, it understood something no other species had taught it. Fear, yes. Power, yes. But determination. Humanity had that in a way the universe itself had never known. The first confrontation had begun. Not with fire. Not with weapons. But with minds. And in this silent war, every thought mattered. Elias whispered into the network, voice steady despite the pressure. "Whatever you are, we will not break." The stars waited. The shadow waited. The humans waited. And in that silence, the galaxy realized, this was no longer just a war for survival. It was a war for the meaning of humanity itself. The mind network trembled across the galaxy. Humans could feel it now, not just the presence, but its intentions. The ancient force was probing, pushing, testing. Every thought, every memory, every feeling was under scrutiny. Commander Elias Vorn stood on the bridge of humanity's dawn, white light pulsing from his eyes as he connected deeper into the network. The humans were holding, resisting, but the pressure was immense. Kayla moved beside him, worry etched into her face. "Elias, it's learning. It knows how to counter our thoughts." He didn't answer at once. He could feel it, like a shadow crawling through his mind. Yet in that shadow he sensed something unexpected, a flicker of hesitation. "Something in it is curious," Elias said finally. "It's not just attacking. It's observing, studying us." Kayla frowned. "Studying? After everything it's done?" "Yes," he replied. "And I think it's afraid." Far from Sol, the shadow sphere shifted. It pulsed with incomprehensible energy, bending light and matter around it. Every attempt by human thought to manipulate it was met with counterwaves, ripples that could unmake stars. Yet, something held it back. Inside the mind network, humans began sensing glimpses of memory, alien, but old. Memories older than any civilization in the galaxy. Scenes of planets rising and falling, of stars burning and dying, and always, one observer watching silently. A human scientist ascended, her form now pure energy, whispered in thought, "It's not attacking because it wants to understand, or because it fears what we might do next." Elias nodded. "It fears our potential. But it underestimates one thing." Kayla tilted her head. "What?" "The one thing humans always have," he said, voice firm. "Adaptation, survival, and hope." Suddenly, the sphere shifted again. The stars around it seemed to warp, as if the universe itself was bending. Then, a signal entered the mind network, a pattern of thought, clearer than anything before. "You are different," it said. "Not in words, but in feeling. Not threatening, not attacking, but curious." Humans shared the sensation. Thousands of minds felt it simultaneously. It was a question, an observation, a test. Elias felt it deep in his consciousness. "It's asking us who we are." Kayla's eyes widened. "It knows we are not just humans anymore. It knows what we've become." "Yes," Elias said. "And now it wants proof. Proof that humanity is worthy." The ascended fleet shifted into formation, flowing like a river of light across space. Not aggressive, but unified. Every mind, every thought, every ship was a single entity, sending a pulse through the network. The sphere responded. It pulsed back, bending reality around itself. Time slowed in pockets of space, stars dimmed, and yet, it did not attack. It watched. And then the truth began to reveal itself. In the visions flowing through the mind network, humans saw fragments of history. Galaxies destroyed, civilizations erased. And in every case, this force had been present, silent, watching, guiding, judging. Not malevolent, but deliberate. It had been the unseen hand behind every cosmic catastrophe, a sentinel of balance, older than time itself. One ascended human whispered, voice trembling, "It's a guardian, not a conqueror." Elias's mind raced. A guardian, judging who can exist in the universe. Kayla's glow dimmed slightly. "Then we're its test." "Yes," he said softly. "And so far, we're passing." The sphere pulsed again, slower this time, less threatening. In the mind network, humans felt it. A question. Can you survive yourselves? It wasn't a challenge of weapons or fleets. It was a question of restraint, of control, of balance. Could humans handle their own power? Could they resist becoming their own threat? Elias stepped forward, eyes bright with resolve. "We can. And we must." Kayla asked quietly, "But what happens if we fail?" He didn't flinch. "Then we learn, as humans always do. We rise or we fall. But we try. That is what makes us human." The sphere pulsed one final time, not in aggression, but in recognition. A ripple of light spread across the galaxy, touching every human mind, a silent acknowledgement. For the first time, the humans felt the presence not as a threat, but as a sentinel, an ancient observer testing their worth, waiting for them to prove that humanity could survive its own power. Elias breathed deeply, feeling the galaxy around him as if it were alive. "This is just the beginning," he said. "Not the end. We faced armies, fleets, and fear itself. Now, we face ourselves." Kayla smiled faintly. "And if we pass?" He looked at the stars. "Then we show the universe the greatest truth of all, that humanity, no matter what, will endure." And somewhere in the depths of space, the ancient presence watched, silent but aware. The test had begun, and for the first time in eons, the guardian of the cosmos was uncertain of its judgment. The galaxy held its breath. Humanity had faced the impossible, and the true challenge was only beginning. The stars were silent again, but this silence was different. It was not fear now, it was waiting. Humanity stood on the edge of something greater than war. The mind network stretched across thousands of systems, glowing like veins of light through the galaxy. Every human could feel the same presence, the ancient guardian that had tested them. Commander Elias Vorn stood at the center of humanity's dawn, the vast command vessel that no longer needed walls or engines. He could see the thoughts of billions. He could feel the pulse of the universe around him. "It watches us," Kayla whispered beside him. "It wants to see what we choose next." Elias nodded slowly. "Then we must show it what humanity truly is." The great shadow sphere floated in the dark like a black sun. It had not moved for days. Time itself seemed to hold its breath around it. Inside the mind network, humans saw visions again. Memories, questions, possibilities. Each one asked the same thing. What will you become? It was not asking what they could destroy. It was asking what they could create. Elias understood now. The Guardian had seen countless species rise and fall because of their own pride and power. Now, it wanted to know if humans were different. Kayla's voice echoed across the network. "We can't fight it. We can't run. But maybe we can answer." Across the ascended fleet, humans focused together. Ships that glowed like stars moved into perfect alignment. From each one, beams of pure white light stretched outward, connecting into a massive ring, a pattern visible from light years away. They were building something new, not a weapon, but a message. Inside humanity's dawn, Elias stood still, eyes closed, focusing all his thoughts. Every human mind joined with his, their collective will creating a single, unified pulse of energy, a living signal. Through that signal, Elias spoke. Not in words, but in feelings, images, truth. He showed the Guardian Earth as it once was, blue oceans, green forests, laughter, love. He showed fire, destruction, loss, and then rebuilding. He showed fear, anger, forgiveness, and hope. And then he sent one last thought. We are not perfect, but we learn. We care. We endure. The light grew brighter until it filled the stars. The sphere responded at last. It pulsed once, sending a wave through the galaxy so vast that entire constellations shimmered. For a moment, it felt as if reality itself was being rewritten. In every human mind, a voice whispered, calm, ancient, and strangely gentle. You remember pain, yet you still choose to rise. That is your strength. Elias gasped. He could feel its emotion, something like approval, mixed with sadness. The voice continued. You are young. You are dangerous. But you are also necessary. The universe needs those who dream. Then, slowly, the sphere began to fade. Its surface broke apart into a storm of tiny lights that scattered like seeds into the stars. Each fragment disappeared into the void, leaving behind nothing but calm. Kayla stared in awe. It's leaving. Elias nodded. No. It's trusting us. The mind network slowly quieted. Humans began to separate their thoughts again, returning to themselves. Yet something inside them had changed. They were still connected, not as one mind, but as one people. For the first time in history, humanity was united not by war or fear, but by understanding. Elias looked at the stars. It judged us worthy to live. Kayla smiled faintly. Then what now? He took a slow breath. Now we rebuild. Not as conquerors. Not as victims. As keepers of what we've learned. She tilted her head. And if it comes back? He looked at her with calm eyes that still glowed softly. Then we'll be ready. Not with weapons, but with wisdom. Years later, across distant systems, life began to bloom again. Ruined planets turned green. Former enemies became allies. The old Etherian remnants sent envoys to Earth, seeking peace. Humanity didn't rule the galaxy, they helped it heal. And sometimes, late at night, ascended humans would look up and see a strange shimmer in the stars, a faint pulse, almost like a heartbeat. Elias would smile when he saw it. It's still watching, he'd say softly. Making sure we don't forget. Kayla would stand beside him, her voice gentle. Do you think we ever will? He shook his head. No. Because fear taught us strength. Pain taught us unity. And now, We teach the stars what it means to be human. Far beyond the edge of known space, in the endless dark where no light had ever reached, a single spark drifted, the last fragment of the ancient guardian. It pulsed once, faintly, and sent one final thought into the universe. They are the children of chaos. But in them, I see hope. And then it was gone. In the quiet that followed, the galaxy slowly began to hum with new life. Worlds healed. Civilizations rose again. The legend of humanity, the species that frightened gods and outlived empires, spread through every corner of space. No one remembered exactly how it began, only that one message echoed through time. The universe's greatest fear was not our power, it was what we might become. And humanity, at last, had become what even the stars could not predict. They had become infinite.